In this video, we are going to learn how to crochet the Orla Striped Infinity Scarf. This scarf is such an easy make and I absolutely love the contrast between the stripes and the colour block sections. The scarf is designed for one size to fit an average adult, but it is very easy to adjust for different widths and lengths. And you can find more details on measurements and adjustments in the pattern, which I have linked below. And of course, if you have a second to subscribe and like this video, that would be absolutely amazing. So before we get started crocheting, let's just take a quick look at the supplies that we are going to need. So for your scarf, you will need a DK weight or number 3 weight yarn in 3 different colours. So for my scarf, I have used Alpaca Cloud by WeCrochet, which is a lovely, soft, 100% baby alpaca yarn. And then for my other 2 colours, I used WeCrochet Kindred, which is also baby alpaca based, and it just has a strand of cotton going through it that gives it that little fleck there. Now, unfortunately, this yarn has been discontinued, which is a pity because it's absolutely beautiful. But as long as you stick to the same weight yarn, and I guess ideally the same brand and the same fibre base, you should be absolutely fine. So I will put links to the Alpaca Cloud below, but unfortunately, as I said, the Kindred has been discontinued. Now, you will also need 2 different crochet hooks. So for the stripe section, which is using the Trinity stitch, I have used a 5.5mm crochet hook. And I used a slightly bigger hook for this section because the Trinity stitch pattern causes your tension to be, well, I found that it caused my tension to be a little bit tighter. And it pulled in my work a little bit more so than if I was just doing regular double crochets. And then when I went to the colour block section, I went down to a 4.5mm hook, just because that stitch pattern was a little bit more loose and a little bit more in keeping with my regular tensions. That's why I went down a hook size for that one. And the end result was that both sections would have exactly the same width, which is exactly what you want. And then lastly, you will need a yarn needle for weaving in ends once you're done. So let's go ahead now and get started. So let's get started on our first striped section. So you can pick any colour to be your first colour. I have picked my yellow yarn here, and I'm just going to start with a slip knot, and I am going to chain 34. So if you want your scarf to be a little wider or a little narrower, you can change the number of chains, but you're just going to want to chain an even number. Okay, so here are my 34 starting chains. Now, if we just have a look a little bit more closely at the chain, you can see that this is the top of the chain, and we have a front loop and a back loop. And then if we rotate it around, you can also see that we have this back bump on each chain as well. And that back bump is what we're going to work into for our first row. So I am going to skip the first chain on the hook, and then I'm going to single crochet into the back bump of the second chain. So that's the first stitch made. Now I'm going to work a single crochet 3 together, and that might sound like a mouthful, but it's actually a very, very easy stitch. So I'm going to insert my hook into the same chain that I just worked into, yarn over and pull up a loop, so I have 2 loops on my hook. Then I'm going to insert my hook into the next back bump and pull up a loop, so I have 3 loops on my hook, and then insert it into the next one and pull up a loop. So now I have 4 loops on my hook, and to finish I'm just going to yarn over and pull through all 4 loops, and that's my single crochet 3 together made. And now I'm just going to chain 1 before moving on to the next stitch. So the next stitch is another single crochet 3 together, working first into the same chain as the last leg of the previous stitch, then into the next chain, and then into the next chain, and then yarn over and pull through all 4 loops, and again chain 1. And that is the repeat for the entire row. So we're just going to work single crochet 3 together, followed by a chain all the way along. So I'm just at the end of the row and I just have 2 chains left to work into. So I'm going to work my last single crochet 3 together as normal. And then I am not going to chain 1 after this. I'm just going to finish the row with a single crochet in that final chain. And that is the first row done. So moving on to row 2, I am not going to fasten off row 1. I am just going to leave that strand there and I'll be using it later on. But I'm just going to take my colour 2, yarn over and pull through that loop, and that's my colour change made. And now I'm going to just gently pull on colour 1, which is our non-working yarn now, and that will just secure the new colour there. So I'm going to chain 1 and turn, and I'm going to begin this row with a single crochet followed by a single crochet 3 together. So again, we'll work the first leg into the same place as that first stitch, then into the next stitch, and then into the next stitch, and finish it off. Chain 1 and work our next single crochet 3 together. Alrighty, so that is the pattern for the entire row. We just need to repeat that single crochet 3 together followed by a chain 1. And if we flip over here, we can see that the 2 colours are sort of blending together, and once we introduce a third colour, it's going to give a really nice woven look to our stitch pattern. So I'll just go ahead and finish off this row, and then we will introduce colour 3. Alright, so I've just worked my final single crochet 3 together, and then remembering not to chain 1 after that last stitch, and I will finish with a single crochet in the very last stitch. And that is row 2 done. So moving on to row 3, it is just going to be a repeat of the previous row, just with a third colour. So I am going to introduce colour 3 in exactly the same way. I'll just yarn over and pull through, and then gently tighten colour 2 there to secure row 3. So we'll chain 1 and turn. And there are a few different strands going on here, but I think managing that is worth it to avoid having to cut the yarn. Alright, so we have our turning chain 1. We're going to begin with a single crochet, and then work our same single crochet 3 together, followed by a chain 1 all the way along. So that is row 3 finished, and I think you can start to get an idea of how the 3 colours are just going to blend and weave together as we go along. So it's just a 1 row repeat for this section. We just need to repeat that same row with the single crochet 3 togethers and the chain 1s, and that's it. And what we're going to do now is change back to our colour 1. So I'm just going to keep the strand of yarn for colour 3 to the back of my work and catch yarn 1 here in my hand, and then just yarn over and pull through. Alright, and I'll just kind of float gently up the side of my work here, and then pull a little bit on colour 3 and begin the next row with my chain 1 as normal. And that's just what you're going to do for every colour change. And as you go along, you will just find that the floated yarn up the side of the work just blends in. And because all of the colour changes will be done in exactly the same way, it will look like part of your work. So let's just go ahead now and we'll repeat that row, just alternating colours every row. And once we're done, we will start work on the first colour block section. So we're going to repeat this row until we have a total of 18 rows, and our work will measure about 6 inches, give or take. So I'm just going to continue on with that now, and I will come back into the video to show you the first colour block section. Alrighty, so I have finished my striped section with the Trinity stitch pattern, and you can see here that I have floated my yarn up the side of my work, so that prevented me from having to cut my yarn at the end of each row, which is fantastic. And I have very few ends to weave in actually, so just a few on each side. So what I have done here is I have cut the yarn for colours 2 and 3, and I have kept colour 1 going. So this section should measure about 6 inches in length. So if yours is a little more or a little less, that is absolutely fine. So we're just going for roughly 6 inches. So the next section that we're going to work is going to be a colour block using colour 1 here, so using the yellow. And the next colour block section is going to be about twice the length of this stripy section. So this is roughly 6 inches, and my colour block section is going to be roughly 12 inches in length. And it's going to be a very easy 2-row repeat, so let's just get straight onto that. So I am going to change over to colour 1, to my yellow, as I did for all the previous rows, and just pull gently there on colour 3, and that's the colour change made. So now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to change hook size for the next section. So I've gone down here to a 4.5 millimeter hook. So I'm going to chain 1 and turn. And the reason I have gone down hook size is that this Trinity stitch pattern with the single crochet 3 togethers can actually pull in a little bit more and make the stitches slightly tighter than if you're just working a regular, say, single or double crochet stitch pattern. And I found that if I used the same hook size for the next number of rows, it actually increased the width of my piece, which I did not want to do. So let's get right into the next section. So this row is going to be super easy. So I have my turning chain 1 here with colour 1, and I'm just going to single crochet in the first stitch. Next, a double crochet in the second stitch, and back to a single crochet in the third stitch. And I'm just going to repeat that pattern all the way along. So single crochet followed by a double crochet. Okay, so I've just come to the end of the row and I have 1 stitch left to work, and it is going to be a single crochet just like what we used to start the row. So that is that row complete. So it was very, very easy. Now the next row is equally easy. I'm just going to turn my work without working a turning chain. Now what we could do here is start the row with a chain 3, and you would often see this if you're beginning a row with a double crochet, which is what we intend to do here. But I'm actually going to start it with a stacked double crochet, because I found that with the chain 3 sometimes you can get a little gap in between that chain 3 and the next stitch, and I kind of want to avoid that gap. And also the stacked double crochet is just going to look a lot more like a regular double crochet, and it will just mean less difference really in the stitches as we work. So this is a very, very easy stitch. We're going to begin with a single crochet without working a turning chain. Okay, so a single crochet without a turning chain. And now here on the left we have 1 leg of our single crochet, and I'm just going to insert my hook into that leg on the left and work another single crochet, and that's it. Okay, so that gives us a stitch that is more or less the same height as a regular double crochet, and it is just a great way to start any row that begins with a chain 3 if you don't like that gap that you get sometimes with the turning chain. Okay, so that's the row started, and now we're just going to repeat basically what we did for the last row. So we started with the double crochet, so next single crochet, double crochet, and then single crochet all the way along. And because we started this row with double crochet, we're also going to finish it with a double crochet. And that is the repeat for the colour block section. So all we need to do is repeat these 2 rows. So the first row starting and ending with a single crochet, and then the second row starting with a stacked double crochet and ending with a double crochet. And I'm going to keep crocheting in this colour, colour 1, until my colour block section measures about twice the length of this. So I'll be going for a total of about 18 inches in length between the stripe section and the first colour block section. So I'm going to go ahead and go on with that, and then I will come back into the video to start the next stripe section. Alrighty, so I have finished my first colour block panel. So I worked a total of 40 rows here in colour 1. And my piece now measures about 18 inches in length, so give or take a little bit. If yours isn't exactly 18, that is absolutely fine, and the scarf is going to stretch anyway as we wear it, and we're just going for roughly 18 inches, so about 6 for the stripes and about 12 for the colour block. So I am going to continue on now with the next striped section. So I have finished on a double crochet row, so it's a good idea to try and just work an even number of rows for this section, as it means that you will be starting the striped section on the right side just as you did down here. Okay, so I am going to put away my smaller crochet hook for now and go back to my larger crochet hook for the stripe sections. So I am not going to fasten off colour 1, I am going to leave it there, and I am going to start joining in colour 2. So I'm just going to join in colour 2 in exactly the same way as I did previously. Just yarn over and pull it through, and then pull gently on colour 1, and away I go. So chain 1 and turn, and now I just start working my Trinity stitch pattern exactly as I did in the first stripe section. So begin with a single crochet, and then a single crochet 3 together over the first, second and third stitch, and a chain 1, and away I go. So this stripe section is going to be pretty much exactly the same as the first one, and the only difference is that we're beginning here with colour 2, and we're still going to alternate colours every single row, but it's just that the order is going to be slightly different. And at this point, you know everything that you need to know to finish the scarf. So down here, let's do a quick recap. We did our stripe section, and I did a total of 18 rows here. And then we did our colour block section with colour 1. So the same colour that we started with down here, that's our first colour block. So the next stripe section is going to be the same. We're going to do 18 rows, alternating the colours every row. And then our second colour block section is going to be exactly the same as this one, except that we're going to use colour 2. And again, remembering to switch to the smaller hook for that. And you can probably guess what the third section is going to be. We're going to do another stripe section, this time beginning with colour 3. And then our fine colour block is going to be done also with colour 3. And that will bring us to the end of the scarf. So what I'm going to do is continue on with all of that, and I will come back into the video then just for the finishing bits and pieces, so seaming the edges together and weaving in the ends. So let me just get on with that now, and I will see you back here very, very soon. Alrighty, so I have finished my scarf and I have just left a tail here at the end to do my seaming. So let's just have a quick recap of what we have. So this is the last colour block panel, our stripes, middle colour block panel and stripes, and then the first colour block panel and that first set of stripes. So there's only two things left to do now. Number one is to go and weave in all our ends, but this isn't my favourite job, so I am going to procrastinate on that a little bit longer, and I'm going to actually seam first to form the infinity scarf. So you can basically seam this however you like. So what I'm going to do is seam on the right side using the mattress stitch. So just make sure I have my right side here, and I do. And I really like using the mattress stitch if I'm seaming the start and finish of 2 rows together, just because I feel like it gives a lovely seamless look. If I was seaming along the sides of rows like this, I would probably use the whip stitch on the wrong side for that. But for now, I'm going to use the mattress stitch. So let's just go ahead and get straight into that. Okay, so I have just threaded my yarn needle here with the long tail from the end of the last row, and away I go. So I'm just going to secure the 2 edges together here with a little stitch. So to work the mattress stitch, I am going to zigzag back and forth along the edge of the last row and the edge of the very first row. So I'm just going to put my needle in and out between the first and second stitches here, and the first and second stitches on the other side. Then back down to the final row, in and out between the second and third stitch, and the same on the opposite edge. And let's just do one more on each side. Sorry, my ends are getting in the way there. And now I'm just going to hold the edges here and then pull very gently, and it will just bring those 2 edges pretty seamlessly together. And that's all there is to it. So we're just going to continue weaving in and out. I should really have woven in that edge, shouldn't I? Back and forth. A few more times, and then about every 5 or 6 stitches or so, I will just pause and pull the 2 edges together. Alright, so you can see that zigzag here. So we'll just pause, pull gently, and that brings the edges together. And that is all there is to the mattress stitch. So I love it. It's really easy, and it just gives the most seamless finish. And it really is especially simple if you have 2 rows that line up really neatly like this. I don't find it as easy at the sides of rows, as I said already, but for something like this, I think it's just perfect. So that's it. I'm just going to continue all the way along, and my seam will be done before I know it. Alrighty, so that is my seam done. And now the last job that I have left to do is weave in all my ends. So it seems like there are a lot, but it's actually not too bad. And I do like the way that we have carried the yarn up the sides here. It has really reduced the number of ends that have to be woven in. So I am just going to get on and do those and not procrastinate on them any longer. And then our scarf will finally be ready to wear. And there we have it, we are all done. I hope you have enjoyed making this infinity scarf with me, and if you do have a second to subscribe, that would be absolutely great. I have lots more tutorials and patterns on my channel and website nedandmimi.com, so do check those out. Happy crocheting and take care.